A crab can be walking around, eating, and acting completely normal, while a parasite smaller than a grain of rice has already taken over almost everything happening inside its body. The crab still looks like a crab. It still walks like a crab. But in a very real way, it is no longer fully in control of itself. That sounds almost impossible. How can something so tiny take over an animal so much bigger than itself? A crab has a hard shell, sharp claws, and its own brain. It should easily be able to fight off or just crush something the size of a grain of rice. So, how does the tiny parasite actually win? Most people would guess the parasite must simply eat the crab from the inside, the way a small bug might chew through food. Maybe it just slowly eats the crab's body until the crab gets weak and dies. That seems like the obvious way a small parasite could hurt something so much bigger. But that guess is wrong, or at least it is not the main story here. This parasite does not just eat the crab and leave it to die. In fact, it often keeps the crab alive for a very long time, sometimes for the rest of the crab's natural life. If simple eating were the whole story, killing the crab quickly would make more sense. So something stranger and more controlled must be going on instead. Here is what actually happens. Early in its life, this parasite is barely visible, just a tiny, floating larva drifting through the water. When it finds a crab, it does not attack the crab's shell head-on. Instead, it finds a soft, weak point on the crab's body and pushes a small group of its own cells inside, leaving the hard shell completely untouched from the outside. Once inside, those cells begin to grow and they do something remarkable. They stretch out thin, root-like threads through the crab's entire body, curling around its organs the way plant roots might wrap around rocks underground. These threads even reach into the crab's own nerve pathways, the very same wiring the crab's brain uses to control its body. This slow, spreading growth is very different from how most parasites work. Many parasites simply live in one spot inside a body, taking a bit of food here and there without spreading very far. This one is different. It grows outward through nearly the whole crab, branch after branch, almost like a tree growing roots into every corner of the soil around it. By the time this growth is finished, there is barely a part of the crab's insides that the parasite has not touched in some way. This is the real key to the whole story. By growing into the crab's nerve pathways, the parasite is not simply stealing food anymore. It is gaining a direct line into the crab's own control system. Over time, it begins to quietly influence the crab's hormones, the chemical signals that tell a crab's body what to do and when to do it. The crab may still be using its own brain to walk and eat, but many of its deeper body signals are now being pushed and pulled by something else entirely. This is a very different kind of takeover than simply damaging a body part. The crab's legs still work. Its claws still work. Its brain can still notice food and danger and react the normal way. What changes is quieter and deeper than that, buried in the chemical signals running through the body, the ones the crab itself never consciously controls in the first place. Because these signals were never something the crab actively thought about, the crab has no real way to notice that they have been hijacked at all. One of the strangest changes shows up in how the crab behaves afterward. A crab carrying this parasite often stops trying to grow a normal shell of its own and stops using energy on its own reproduction altogether. Instead, the parasite forms a soft, egg-filled sac on the underside of the crab in almost the same spot where the crab would normally carry its own eggs. Driven by hormone signals it can no longer fully control, the crab begins caring for this sac exactly like it was protecting its own babies, keeping it clean and safely tucked underneath its body. Even more surprising, when the eggs inside that sac are finally ready, the crab performs the same gentle rocking motion it would normally use to release its own baby crabs into the water. Except this time, it is not releasing its own young at all. It is releasing hundreds of new baby parasites, sent out into the ocean to go find brand new crabs of their own. This is not the only place in the ocean where a parasite reaches deep enough to change an animal's behavior instead of just its body. In certain small fish, a different kind of parasite attaches itself directly onto the tongue, feeding on blood until the fish's real tongue eventually shrinks away completely. Then, remarkably, the parasite settles into that same spot and starts working like a replacement tongue, while the fish keeps living and eating normally, seemingly unaware that part of its own mouth is now, quite literally, a different creature. What makes this fish example so unsettling is how normal everything still looks from the outside. The fish still swims with its school. It still chases and eats smaller prey using its jaws and its new, living replacement tongue, almost as if nothing unusual had ever happened. There is no dramatic struggle, no obvious sign of injury. The whole exchange happens slowly and quietly, which may be exactly why it works so well. A calm, uninjured host is far less likely to draw attention from predators than a fish that is clearly wounded or struggling. Both of these examples point to the same unsettling idea. A parasite does not always need brute strength or a fast attack to succeed. Sometimes the smartest strategy is a quiet one, slipping in gently, avoiding a big fight, and then reaching for the exact wiring that controls behavior rather than fighting the whole body at once. It is a slower path to success, but often a far more complete and long-lasting one. There is also a strange kind of teamwork hidden inside this whole process, even though the crab never agreed to any of it. The parasite needs the crab alive, fed, and moving normally for a long time. Since a dead or badly injured crab cannot properly protect and carry a growing egg sac. So instead of destroying its host, the parasite protects it in almost every way that matters, guiding it only in the one direction that benefits the parasite most. The crab keeps living a mostly ordinary life. It simply is no longer entirely living it for itself. Zooming out, this whole story is a reminder that being bigger and stronger does not always mean being in control. Somewhere on the ocean floor right now, a crab is quietly caring for a soft, glistening sac attached underneath its body, gently rocking it back and forth in the current, fully convinced that it is protecting its own future. It has no way of knowing that its own body has become a nursery for something else entirely. Something that took over so slowly and so completely that the crab never even noticed the moment control slipped away.